Okay, alright folks, so to approach these kind of problems right here, again your eye should focus on the variable, which is the x, and notice that the variable is attached to this negative fraction right here. So I want to leave this section by itself, so I want to undo this part right here. So notice that it's subtracting. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and add 22. That way it becomes a giant 0, and if I do it to one side, I do it to the other. Okay, so then what happens is that right here I get a giant 0, so I'm left with negative 3/5 x equals to, now I have a negative 28 and a positive 22. So if you remember that this has more counters, so your answer is going to be negative. So I'll put here a negative, and then by how much does it win by? So you have 22 and you have 28, so that means it wins by 6, so I have negative 6 right here. Okay, now in order to do this, notice that the negative's in the middle. So we discussed before that if it's in the middle, you could decide whether you put it to the top number, which is your numerator, or the bottom number, which is your denominator. I'm going to choose to put it in the numerator, so I always like to put it on top. So right here I have negative 3 over 5x is equal to negative 6. Okay? Now, like, the tough part is, well, how do you get rid of this fraction, right? So notice I want to undo what I see first. So notice that my eye focuses on this division bar. And notice that it's dividing by 5. So what I want to do is the inverse of that, or the opposite. So the opposite of dividing by 5 is multiplying by 5. So I go ahead and multiply by 5 on both sides. And the reason I want to do that is because right here it creates a giant 1. Okay, so then I get negative 3x, because it makes a 1, it goes way here, equals 2. And then 6 times 5 gives me 30. But you have to remember that a negative times a positive number gives you a negative. Alright, now it looks kind of normal. So then right here, remember that when they're stuck together, they're multiplying. So what I want to do is undo the multiplication by dividing. So I go ahead and divide like this, and I want to divide by a negative 3 on both sides. So then right here I get a giant 1. Let me change color. So I get a giant 1 here, so I get 1x is equal to, 3 goes into 30 10 times, and a negative divided by a negative gives me a positive. So it's a positive 10, and this is my answer.